Good morning and welcome to this session, Latin America session, building peace, peace building in a diverse religious context. My name is Denise Lindberg. I'm native from Havana, Cuba. I was raised here in the state of Utah. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to moderate this session. We have two presenters during this session. They will present visions from their own peoples. We have one from Bolivia and one from Colombia. And I am anxious to hear what they will have to share with us today. We'll start with Pastor Luis Clemente Aruquipa Carlo. He is president of the National Christian Council for the Right for Life, Family, and Liberty from Bolivia, and former president of the Evangelical United Churches in Bolivia. After his presentation, we will hear from Reverend Eduardo Augusto Gómez González, doctor and director of from New Latin America, doctor of the Evangélica Alliance, and he's from Bogota, Colombia. Welcome. It is an honor to have you both here today, and we look forward to hearing your presentations. Thank you very much. Good morning. It's really a challenge after the previous presentations to take the stand. The high level, the high bar that's been set. But we'll do our best. As pastors, we are, very used to preaching for an hour and a half, but I hope that somebody tells me when I should be closing. It's a real honor being with you all today to speak about a matter that we consider is very important for the benefit of our community's religious liberty as a means for building peace. My name is Luis Clemente Aruquipa Carlo. I'm an evangelical pastor. I am called pastor of democracy because of the marches and protests that we organize. My job here is to gather all your technical words, the professional words that you guys utter here, and put them in lay words. It comes from Greek word Latin. A pastor visited us to Bolivia, Brother Guillermo, Dr. Hugo de la Fuente. They also visited with us when they nourished us, academically speaking. All that we have taken and put it into work. What you are doing in theory, we put it into practice. We have the National Christian Council that we created at the end of 2015, beginnings of 2016. We have the right to life, family, and liberty. Our fight is against laws that approve abortion, egalitarian marriage, and freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, freedom of speech. Today, I would like to speak, the work ahead of us is very difficult, especially from the Evangelical Church standpoint in Bolivia. When we approach the media, and we are approaching the media constantly, and they would say that we are like dead meat. Dead meat is the one that you send first. If everything goes right, oh, the Evangelical Church. If things go wrong, it's my fault, Luis Arequipa's fault. So the goal of this presentation from religious freedom is not just a basic right, but it's also a vital tool for the establishment and the retaining of social peace. In a world in which fundamental rights are under threat, it is our responsibility not only to defend our faith, but also to promote an environment in which religious freedom can flourish and also common benefit and common welfare. It was mentioned earlier this morning that we are persecuted, but we are not abandoned. We have been persecuted by the government of Evo Morales. We have been discriminated even by our own church, reason why We are a new church. We are new into this interreligious dialogue. So this interreligious dialogue has been possible thanks to the cooperation of the U.S. Embassy, cooperation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, cooperation of the Episcopal Church. So to give you some context, when we speak about religious freedom, we're referring to the right that each person has to worship every day without being threatened. This is consecrated in Scripture and international law. This is not a new concept. The Bible mentions religious freedom when it mentioned that each person has to have the liberty, the freedom of following his or her own faith. Romans 14:5 says, one makes a difference between day and day. Another judges all days are the same, but we're all convinced in our own mind. This verse, highlights the importance of individual conscience, individual freedom, which is fundamental for a society which is in search of peace. From the legal standpoint, religious freedom is a fundamental human right acknowledged by international instruments like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This right allows people to live in harmony, respecting their rights and just trying to avoid conflict. Allow me to share some examples of things that we've done as a National Christian Council to protect peace and promote peace and protect human rights. To understand religious freedom, it's important to consider the context of our own nation. Recently, we've seen that the Bolivian government has tried to restrict our freedoms, and one of the most critical moments was the introduction of Article 88 in the Criminal Civil Code. That criminal code is the only law approved by a government in the entire world that's been rejected from the international standpoint. The ministers with the Evo Morales government said this is set in stone. And look, and they say not even a celestial court would be able to reject this. But God is all-powerful, and that law was rejected. When we come into this in Article 88, that proselytizing was criminalized. The part in which the elders were evangelicals were allowed to practice and teach and preach our own creeds, our own beliefs in a public square, sharing it on campaigns or moving people from place to place. They criminalized us as if we were trafficking with people. Also, Article 153, the widening of the causes for abortion, where one person in his sound state of mind cannot accept that a student, they don't say the age, it could be 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, that just because she's a student, she can have an abortion. Covering crimes like incestuous activities, violation, rape, and others. Another cause, because you are poor. Some people would say, I don't have money, I want an abortion, I cannot afford to have a child. Another excuse, I have 5 children, I don't want to have a 6th one. And this was without your husband's consent or your parents if you were underage. We could consider that this is a murder. That would be legalizing murder inside the womb. Exodus 20 says, thou shalt not kill. These articles challenge our activities as church directly, putting our lives at risk, not only our freedoms of religion, but also our capacity of sharing with others. The cancellation of this area in the civil code was a success, was a win for us, not only for protecting our liberties, but also avoided a major social conflict. It means that when we start reading a code, in the civil code, and we are not attorneys, but then we start reading this, we notice that that was against that some of our rights were being punished and limited, not only to us, but also to the drivers and professionals, and also women. So the society started raising up. They started protesting, and they said, oh, thanks to the church, we're now learning how to read. And we, as a church, we've tried, and thank God, we haven't reached this conflict thanks to the cancellation of this code that was adopted in the past. And we had opposition from several religious groups. We were able to have this rate cancelled and other laws. It was a very important victory to us, which showed the importance of defending our fundamental rights. This is just some examples on how the defense of religious freedom contributed to the stability and peace in Bolivia. And also, it helped the entire nation. Our commitment to keep on working and defending our rights to avoid confrontation and social conflict. The Social Christian Council had a very important role in this and other battles for religious freedom in Bolivia. Since its inception in 2015 and its founding in 2017, we have worked tirelessly to protect the rights of life, family, and liberty, always based on biblical principles. Our mission is to ensure that these freedoms are preserved for future generations. It was mentioned before, what type of world are we going to leave to our children? And we have achieved important victories in this fight, as we will see later. We must acknowledge, and I acknowledge this publicly, the support and counsel from the church, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like Dr. Scott Isaacson, Brother Guillermo, and Brother Hugo de la Fuente, who is in La Paz, Bolivia. Without their expertise, without their knowledge of what is the law of freedom of religion, we wouldn't have been able to make it as far as we made it. Religious freedom is therefore an essential foundation for peace. When a society respects and protects this right, it creates an environment where people can live together peacefully, regardless of their beliefs. History teaches us that religious persecution and intolerance often lead to conflict and violence. In Bolivia, we have faced threats to religious freedom, such as Law 807 on gender identity and Municipal Law 311 on sexual diversity. These laws attempt to impose LGBTI. They tell them that they have more rights than the rights that we usually have. So when we defend this religious freedom, we're defending not only our rights to protect and live our faiths, but also we preserve mutual respect, tolerance, and ultimately peace in our society. One of the current threats that we have is the ratification of the Convention Against Any Type of Discrimination. This ratification, which is right now in the House of Senators and Deputies in our country, is a law against freedom. It's a law against the freedom of speech. It's a law against freedom of religion. It's a law against freedom of conscience. And, by preaching equality, they're restricting freedom, religious freedoms, and freedom of speech. Please allow me to be clear. The convention could criminalize our traditional teachings and values. In other countries, similar laws have been used to silence churches and prohibit the proclamation of biblical truths on issues such as marriage and family and abortion. If this conversion is ratified, we could face a future in which preaching from the pulpit on certain biblical truths about witchcraft, abortion, could be considered as an act of discrimination. As National Christian Council, we have been collaborated against COVID. We've talked about COVID. We have the assistance of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sending oxygen tanks to people, and recently newborn babies, in the middle of the blockade. When the Evo Morales government blocked everything, we were allowed to send those tanks, even facing putting our own lives at risk. Religious freedom is not a right that we must always be vigilant to protect it from any attempt at restriction. Today, more than ever, it is essential that we defend this right in the face of legislative threats such as the Convention Against Discrimination and Intolerance. God has not made us cowards. He is giving us power. The National Christian Council is committed to continuing to fight for religious freedom in Bolivia. We call on all present to join us in this cause so that together we can ensure that freedom of religion is protected for future generations. today. And this moment in Bolivia, they are considering a project of law for incest and rape against minors. They are fighting against that. They want to eliminate those words from the criminal code, and they want to put it as approved, consented. If ask a 12, 13, 14-year-old, could she give consent for someone to rape her today? Right now, they are considering that. That's why we would like to thank everyone for commitment with this cause. I am positively shocked by all we've been treated like as if we were home. I am shocked by the spiritual and the buildings and the students on this university. The God of Word says that blessings should come. Blessings, not condemnation, should come from our own. And that's what I see in this university. The representative from India said, if your religion is good, you have to be good. We must be a good husband, a good wife, being a good father and a good mother, to be able to be a good son and a good daughter. I close with this. I change so my family can change, so the church can change, so a nation can change. God bless you with His choicest blessings. Thank you very much.
I would like to begin by thanking the university for the honorary invitation that they have made its president and each one of its academics. Of course, I would like to thank the law school, to Professor Denise, so many of us friends united here. Bishop Manrugo, thank you for all of the work you have done from Peru, and also a great friend and his dear wife, in which we have worked together for many years in the United States organization, OEA. I unite my words to the words of Pastor Luis Arequipa in all of the with all the hospitality we've received. It has been excellent, and I have great admiration. I'm really at a loss for words for what it means to see this in the development of new generations. Thank you, coordinator, and I thank you again for my invitation, for your invitation. I bring the kind and warmest hellos from my wife and my daughters, Carolina and Paula, from Bogota, Colombia, and also from the Evangelical Alliance. And this is, we cover more than 500,000 organizations and 150 believers in Iberoamerica. And this is also a work from the project New Latin America in order to be able to carry out constant and permanent dialogue. Speaking of the topic that has been asked me, that I have been asked to speak about, this is a very complex matter because this is the conflict that has been the longest in the world, which is the armed conflict in Colombia. We have nearly 7 decades that have left a great deal of problems, more than 250,000 deaths, 8 million people exiled, and incalculable losses when it comes to gross internal product. To this day, we are a part of the interreligious sector, and we have been assigned the institutional dialogue of interreligious communications, and we bring the 5 representatives from the Jewish community, Catholic community, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, We have Mormons, and myself, we are there to serve. Peace in Colombia has been a central issue in the country's recent history, marked by decades of armed conflict between the government, guerrilla groups, paramilitaries, and drug traffickers. One of the most important milestones was the peace agreement signed in 2016 between the Colombian government, with the ex-president Juan Manuel Santos and the Nobel Peace Prize, and the forces of Colombia, FARC, after the signing of this agreement, I was sent to Colombia, and after more than 50 years of conflict, which left millions of victims, which I have mentioned, displaced and a great impact on society. The interfaith sector has played a significant role in the peace process in Colombia. Various religious organizations, including Catholic leaders, evangelical, Jewish, Muslim, and other leaders, have come together to promote reconciliation and peace within the country. And how have we become united? First, in spiritual accompaniment and support for victims. Religious communities have provided emotional and spiritual support to victims of the conflict, including displaced persons, relatives of those that are disappeared, ex-combatants which are trying to reintegrate into society, and they have worked arduously on forgiveness and reconciliation at the community level, helping heal the wounds left by war. Second, spaces for dialogue. The interreligious sector has promoted spaces for dialogue between different social and political actors. They have been mediators in local conversations to help resolve conflicts that are still alive in some of the regions of this country. Third, active participation in the post-conflict. Many religious organizations have been involved in the implementation of the peace agreements. For example, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have promoted rural development programs, humanitarian demining, and the accompaniment of ex-combatants for their reintegration. Fourth, denouncing human rights violations. On several occasions, religious leaders have denounced the killings of social leaders and former combatants, urging the government to fulfill its responsibility to protect these people and guaranteeing peace. They have also played an important role in advocating for social justice, which is a key issue in consolidating peace within our country. And we have mentioned this in the organization OAS with our great friend, the Secretary Luis Armando, and also with our great friend Paulina Coronaminas from the civil society. I would like to make a clear recognition now. Fifth, rebuilding the social fabric. The interfaith sector has worked hard to promote peaceful coexistence and to rebuild communities that have been devastated by conflict. We do this through educational, cultural, and spiritual initiatives seeking to foster a culture of peace and respect for human rights. The interfaith approach in Colombia has shown that faith, beyond its doctrinal differences, can be a powerful force for reconciliation, for peace building, and social cohesion within a country that still faces great challenges on its path to sustainable peace. The main benefits of peace in Colombia related to religion can be observed in several aspects of life, both socially, culturally, and spiritual life of the country. The active participation of religious communities in the peace process has generated positive impacts that contribute to the overall well-being of society. Some of these benefits are the following. First, reconciliation and forgiveness. Peace has opened the door to the process of forgiveness and reconciliation, in which religions have played a central role. Many religious communities have promoted dialogue and forgiveness, facilitating healing both emotional and spiritual, of victims, ex-combatants, and society at large. This helps to overcome the polarization and hatred accumulated over years of conflicts. Second, strengthening the social fabric. Religious institutions have been instrumental in building the social fabric, supporting the reintegration of ex-combatants and the restoration of trust between communities. Third, victim support. Religious communities have been an important source of spiritual accompaniment. They provide emotional and spiritual support through care initiatives that include psychosocial healing, and they have established many community projects. Religious institutions have helped heal the wounds of those that have suffered from violence and loss. Fourth, promoting social justice, peace, has allowed faith-based organizations to focus more on social justice, one of the central demands for peace building in Colombia. Churches and other institutions have advocated for access to basic rights such as education, health, and land, which helps, therefore, reduce the inequalities that were one of the root causes of this armed conflict. Fifth, building a culture of peace. Peace has enabled religious communities to focus their teachings and practices on promoting a culture of peace. Through educational and formative and spiritual activities, churches have inculcated values of tolerance, respect for life, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts, both at the community level and the national level. Sixth, strengthening interreligious dialogue. As has been mentioned, we are a part of a national roundtable that has a spot in the highest places of society. Seventh, development of rural areas. Religious institutions being present in rural areas affected by the conflict have played a crucial role in the implementation of projects of development within these areas. These projects are focused on agriculture, education, and community empowerment, and they have improved the living conditions in regions that were once marginalized, contributing to a more inclusive peace. To summarize, peace in Colombia has allowed religion and religious communities to become key and principal actors for healing, justice, and social reconstruction within our country. By working together to promote forgiveness, respect, and development, religions have helped to consolidate peace and build a more cohesive and equitable society. The interfaith sector in Colombia has played a relevant role in the implementation and support of the 2016 peace agreement between the Colombian government and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC. I would simply like to highlight quickly a few of the contributions. Support for the reconciliation process. Since the signing of the peace agreement, religious communities have been key actors in promoting forgiveness and reconciliation. Churches and religions have worked with the victims of the conflict, with ex-combatants, and the communities that were affected. Second, participation in the implementation of this agreement. The faith sector has been committed to the implementation of several points of the peace agreement, particularly with those related to the reintegration of ex-combatants and the development of rural areas, those most affected by the conflict. Third, defense of human rights. A key aspect of the work of interreligious sector has been its defense of human rights in the post-conflict context. And this is something that I'd like to pause on quickly to express our great concern that we have not only in the case of the Colombian situation, but of the entire continent. The topic of human rights when it comes to religious liberty. Recently, we have seen how in several countries this liberty has become more and more restricted, which And I once again express my gratitude to OAS and the work they are doing. Fourth, promoting the dialogue and social cohesion. The dialogue has been inclusive in various sectors. Challenges and tensions, while the interfaith sector has been a positive actor, it has also faced internal challenges and tensions. Not all religious denominations have unanimously supported the peace agreement, because some have seen with great concern the impunity and the focus on issues such as transitional justice. This has created a certain amount of division, and it has made it difficult to have a united voice. Six, peace education. How wonderful it is to see from this center of education for the nations of the world to many, many religious communities have integrated and have done a great work in a strong component of formation for peace through community projects, training programs, schools, and they have become, it has become of greatest importance to teach these fundamental values to the coming, to the future generations. And this is indispensable in creating communities that support each other and promote cultures of truth and faith. And seventh, the articulation with the Truth Commission and the GEP. The interreligious sector has also worked in coordination with the Truth Commission and the Special Jurisdiction for Peace, GEP, two institutions created from the agreement to clarify the truth about conflict and ensure justice for the victims. Religious communities have supported these institutions in promoting a culture of truth and have provided spaces because we have come to one conviction. Together, we can do more. Thank you very much for your attention. We would like to thank our presenters for their wonderful presentations. Both have highlighted both the challenges, but also the goals that have been achieved by your communities. And what you have showed us is truly remarkable, all of the achievements that you have been able to carry out. My question is, what are, in your opinion, the next steps? What do we do next in order to continue advancing the achievements you have made up until now? We only have 2 minutes per person to present, but I would like to hear from you. 2 minutes, please. Let's be brief. But what else? What else do you believe we should do? I think that what we are missing, we need education, the curriculum that must be established internationally. In 2023, we spoke against the government, and they have begun a judicial process against us. And we talked about the education of children preschool. We're talking 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And they speak to them about pleasures and displeasures. Pleasure, masturbate with your body. We have to teach the boys, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And if you don't feel satisfaction with your body, displeasure, which means try with another sex or with your same sex. This type of topic, I think, is the most urgent. The most urgent topic we should talk about. We should talk about education because it is the most basic. Thank God, and thank to the support that we have received from organizations, from social organizations, both professionals and doctors. We have been able to put a stop to this so that this curriculum is not published in books, but it does exist. I think that this battle is not just a Bolivian battle, but it is a battle for everybody. And I think it is time to rise and defend children. If not, what world will we leave them? I think that an education with values and Christian principles and returning them to the old paths is best. Thank you very much, Pastor. Reverend? Well, I think that when we talk about education and peace building, I must highlight the work that we see Fidela do at the international level, which is so excellently coordinated by our very lovely Denise and his lovely wife, Cynthia. And we also see that they are supported by OAS and other multilateral organisms. We must continue to carry out this persistent work, and we must be consistent as we do it, because we see spaces where it almost seems that confrontation is going down, but then in time it comes back. I conclude by saying that the work is one of persistence, because persistent overcomes resistance. Thank you very much. Please come together with me in giving our gratitude, our thank yous, and recognizing our presenters for their magnificent ideas that they have presented to us, because they have been very interesting. Thank you very much.